Purple Daily is daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.
I will ride with this group.
Seriously, man. Please.
And away we go.
Okay, we are live on the Purple Daily YouTube channel, as we are every Friday, year-round at 10 a.m. Central Time. But instead of doing Feedback Friday here, we're going to give you Feedback Friday on a Sunday, so be on the lookout for that this weekend. This is our day after Vikings games show, which is Hottest Vikings Takes, Chef Dex with a pie chart of blame, and some other things before the show is over. But Judd, let's go to Quick Trip here. Let's start our Friday. Looking out the window, it's a beautiful, glorious fall Friday here.
Gorgeous.
Before we take the gloves off and maybe spar with each other, let's come together at Quick Trip.
I love it. Yeah, let's go to Quick Trip. And you know what? We all stayed up late last night watching the Vikings, and then we tossed and turned because of that performance. And so you're you know what, tired? But look at right there. It's the Karuba coffee. That's right. Quick Trip has an answer. They are like a great offensive coordinator. They have an answer for whatever you need. You're dragging, they've got the Karuba coffee. You need breakfast, lunch, or dinner? They're basically a grocery store. You need a snack? They've got that. The gas tank nearing E, where you don't want to go if you're smart? Guess what? You can fill up. You can put the app on your phone. Again, they're like a great OC. They have an answer for everything, whether it be a screen pass or the receiver is running a 9 route. That's right. Quick Trip is the answer for all that you need.
Or whether you're an official and, you're trying to do your job in the back of the end zone, and you're wondering, why is there a quarterback's eyeball staring at me while I'm reading the name on the back of his jersey?
I'm actually going to do hottest takes from this position for the rest of the show. My pie chart and everything from all the way back here.
Yeah, we didn't, as the head official was quoted in the pool report after the game. We just didn't have a great angle on it, quite frankly. And then all of the screenshots coming out of two officials, not one but two officials with zero impediment, staring right at an egregious face mask. Curious to see what Declan's pie chart looks like. I don't know if you can put that on there or not. But by the way, also we're giving away a 75-inch Roku Pro Series 4K TV this month on the Score North app. So just open the Score North app. It's free to download. It's a central hub for everything we do. And go to the listener rewards section, and you can enter to win the 75-inch Roku Pro Series 4K TV. Football season hasn't even peaked yet. So get that thing in your living room just in time. Okay, it's time for our hottest Vikings takes.
Most make predictions.
I requested, or we could write that down.
We can write it down too, I guess. We can write down the hottest
I was
takes.
told we're not doing that today. My contract says write that down on Wednesdays.
Judd playing contractual hardball here. Chef Dex has the pie chart, so he's going to lead that. I requested to lead off the hottest Vikings takes because I feel like you guys are going to push back at me, and we might as well just clear the runway for this, just based on like last night's event line. My hottest Vikings take is, this is the most egregiously I've ever seen Vikings fans and media overreact in my career doing this. 20 years being an idiot on a microphone, watching Vikings games, talking about Vikings games, discussing with fans up and down. Days and years of my life devoted to Vikings football. And this right here, the last 10 days, the last 5 days, is the most I've ever seen fans overreact unnecessarily and egregiously. And I can explain, but
Yeah, I'd like to get the explanation.
how does that? Okay.
I'd like to get your explanation before I attack that premise.
I think so
Okay.
too.
So first off, most of the people that are sounding the alarm right now thought this was a 7-win team back in July. So 3 months ago, man, if they can just get to like 8 or 9 wins and crescendo into 2025, I think we'd all say, all right, you're kind of on the right track here. So this team never had Super Bowl expectations until like 2 weeks ago. So now all of a sudden, everybody who thought they were a 7-win team 3 months ago is shocked that they might not quite be the best team in the NFL that their 5-0 record was supposed to say. Oh my gosh, how is it possible that a team we thought was maybe going to flirt with the playoffs is getting beat by good football teams. The Lions, a Rams team on the road, short week with two of the best wide receivers back. So let's just the expectations and how aggressively they've shifted in the last 3 months. We'll just lay the groundwork with that. But secondly, even with these two losses, the Vikings are still one of the best teams in the NFL. They're sitting at 5-2 with wins over the Texans, the Packers at Lambeau, and a 49ers team that when the Vikings played them did not have the barrage of injuries that we see in the last couple weeks. Christian McCaffrey was out, but their backup running back ran roughshod for like 100 yards over the Vikings. So like that was a fully stocked Niners team that the Vikings beat. The Vikings, even after these two losses, have the 5th best point differential in the NFL, despite having universally and analytically the 2nd or 3rd hardest schedule so far through the first 8 weeks of the season. And their two losses are against the Detroit Lions, who are, again, universally regarded as one of the 3 main Super Bowl contenders. 17-point lead in the NFC Championship game last year. Best offensive line in the league. And you went toe-to-toe with that team in a heavyweight fight. So what? It's the NFL. You're going to lose games to good teams sometimes. You've beat good teams so far this season. And the Rams game last night, I mean, unbeknownst to us, they bring Cooper Kupp back and Puka Nacua. And Sean McVay, by the way, in retrospect, we should have looked more into this. Sean McVay is now 10-1 in his last 11 games against the spread on short rest. All-time great short rest coach. Great wide receiver tandem. Borderline Hall of Fame quarterback. Like, yeah, there's things to nitpick, and we will on this show. But people are acting like they just lost to the Patriots and the Dolphins without Tua or something in the last couple weeks. And I just, like, people are bailing. They're calling this team a fraud. They're saying that now they're going to roll off. Now they're going to barely, sniff the playoffs. Act like you've watched an NFL season before, people. You're not going 17-0. In fact, I'll give you this nugget too. The last 20 Super Bowl champions, of which I am not putting the Vikings in that category. This team is not winning the Super Bowl. So let's compare the Vikings to teams that won the Super Bowl the last 20 years. The average regular season win total, 11.8 in the last 20 years. So even the best of the best are going 11-5, 11-6, 12-4, 12-5. Deep breaths, calm down, pseudo bye week, Colts at home. So much ridiculous overreaction to these last 5 days.
Well, I would completely agree with your premise based on the Detroit loss, because that was a tight game. It's a disappointing game, but you're going to lose those games. And yeah, it sucks, but you're going to lose those games. But first of all, I'm not going to fault anyone for resetting their expectations after 5 wins. Like, you've created a standard that people didn't expect, and I appreciate that. Last night, I think people should be pissed about that. I think the Vikings should be pissed about that. That was, hey, the Rams got 2 receivers back, right? All the more reason why you got to get to Stafford. You didn't have 1 sack. You played a dumb game. You were not prepared. You had numerous opportunities. That was, the Detroit game happens. But I don't feel like the Detroit game was a product of shooting yourself in the foot continually. I think that's just a really good team that figured you out. And by the way, gave Sean McVay enough tells that he exposed those. So you gotta, if you're Brian Flores, you gotta respond. Like, I don't care. Sean McVay, his team played on Sunday, and by Thursday, his team was prepared to expose what he had seen on film. The Vikings had no response. So I'm with you completely. If people were like, well, this team's a fraud, they lost to Detroit. It's like, hold on a second here. That's one of the best teams. Last night, I say pound them for it. That was not excusable. That loss was you. And yeah, Nacua and Kupp coming back made it even more apparent that you had to get pressure. And not only did you not get, so we've often, and this is the correct way to go about this, we've often separated sacks from pressures, because sacks are sexy and sacks are fun, but the key is pressure. They didn't pressure Stafford. So I am totally on board hammering them for last night. But if you're going to now say, well, this proves that, like, the Detroit game was disgusting too, no, I disagree. I think that was a legit loss. I think what we saw last night was disturbing. And again, and this is up to Flores, dude, you're being exposed here now. How do you respond? So I guess I see them as very different works of art. And one was...
People are all in on praising Judd here and want me off the show.
Well, but I'm not disagreeing completely. I see them as two, and I know that they were 5 days apart.
Wrong.
I see them as two very different games. So I'm not going to say, well, Phil, you're wrong completely, because, yeah, the Detroit game, I said, it's disappointing. Am I, like, somehow pissed off at them? Last night, though, just you weren't prepared for what the Rams were going to give you. And you are right on Nakua and Kupp from our perspective. Like, we might have picked the game, or we would have picked the game differently. But if you're the Vikings, you have to assume that both of them are going to play. Like, you're preparing for them to play. And you got almost no pressure. Shame on the Vikings for Thursday. I totally get Sunday.
I think the thing that is upsetting me the most, and this is not necessarily what happened yesterday, which I'll give you a hot take here in a bit. This whole idea of people telling me, well, if you would have said preseason they'd be 5-2 up to this point, you'd take it. That's different, dude. If you went 0-2 and rattled off 5 wins, that looks a lot different than winning your first 5, losing your last 2 to really good teams, and shooting yourselves in the foot like you did on Thursday Night Football. I don't think 5-2 is just created equally in the exact same stew from our preseason expectations. And when you go 5-0, and when you beat the Texans, when you beat the Niners, when you beat Green Bay on the road, it changes the perception of what 5-2 should mean. So I do think we get too lost in that sauce, and I don't think it's fair to just say 5-2 is created equally the same.
On Judd's points, everything you just said about the Rams game in a vacuum and the criticisms, I agree. And I will join you guys as far as the Rams game specifically, the pre-snap penalties. Like, there's a lot of things I am not saying everything is perfect. This is great. Everyone needs to agreed on the micro criticisms of the Rams games. But if you think that just because you beat a good Niners team, a good Texans team, and a good Packers team at Lambeau, that now the expectation should be that you run the table against every other good team that you face,
I'm with that.
then this is your first season watching NFL football, and there's no other way. Or you don't watch. I guess you just don't watch other teams besides the Vikings. Like, dude, the last 6 Super Bowl winners, and again, I'm not even saying the Vikings are that this year. The last 6 Super Bowl winners, 5 of them were exactly 5-2 after 7 games. So, yeah, like, it's annoying, the 9 penalties and the lack of pressures. This is the NFL, man. It's a grind. You play great coaches. You play top 5, top 10 quarterbacks. Teams figure you out, and then you make an adjustment over here.
Right.
Now, if I will say this, if they lose a home game to the Colts and Anthony Richardson is starting, or Joe Flacco even, after 10 days to prepare, and some of these things are still themes, and now it's a 3-game losing streak, I'll come on this show and I'll eat it, and you guys can clown me, the audience, whatever you want. I'm saying this is still a really good team that was never going to run the table, that is probably still on track for like 11, 12 wins, and is very feisty defensively if they can make a couple adjustments and get Blake Cashman back. It doesn't mean that the league has figured out the Flores defense forever, and now they're going to give up 30 points a game. I'm just saying I sense a lot of people emotionally overreacting to the last 5 days. That's my take.
I think it's the coupled together. Like, I didn't sense this after Detroit nearly as much as, but, you know, I mean, the eye test was pathetic last night. That's the problem. Like what we saw. And yeah, the whole question here is, can you now adjust to what teams have shown? I think the other part of the panic here is the fact that this defense fell apart in December of last year. And so it feels like Brian Flores, when they figure you out, what are you doing? Now, I actually think, and I'll get to this in my take, I think this is worse than that for sure. But I understand the frustration about last night. But look, if they don't adjust, we got bigger questions than 2024. Like if they go into a tailspin that they cannot recover from now you have a coaching discussion, which I would prefer not to have.
What if they beat the Colts by like 14 points next week? Are we all back? And then they beat a couple bad teams. Like, are we all like,
yeah, it's just a, like I said,
this is football, man.
The Detroit game to me is the flow of a season. It's the flow of, but you do have to, like, if you beat the Colts by, let's say, 7 or 14, and and it's a high scoring game, and your defense is now officially just struggling, then yeah, I'm concerned about it.
So Lions game, my last thing on this, and then you guys jump in with your hot takes. Lions game, flow of the season, 100% agree. And we kind of, Aaron Jones jumping back in. I flipped my pick at the end and said Vikings are going to win because Aaron Jones is playing. But like we all kind of went in. Declan nailed it. He got that game right. It felt like even out of a bye week, this is a really tough game. Flow of a season. But the Rams loss is unacceptable. And I get the micro criticisms. But if you go back and look, and this is where we're all idiots, and maybe we didn't take enough time on a short week to really investigate what was happening. But the Rams on a short week, you've got one of the best head coaches in the modern NFL, statistically one of the best head coaches in the last 20 years on short weeks. I would say a borderline Hall of Fame quarterback that's great at identifying after 15 years what's happening at the line of scrimmage. And Puka Nacua came back. Puka Nacua came back under our noses here. And, oh, by the way, teams that have played the Lions this season are now 0-5 the next week. Average margin of loss, 3 touchdowns. And we're gonna say this is an egregious, unforgivable loss last night. This was also a schedule and flow of the season loss. And I expect this team to rattle off like 3 wins in 4 weeks, maybe even 4 straight wins. That's where I'm at.
Yeah. My last thing, their performance, unacceptable. Their performance was unacceptable. It just was. So fix it.
Who wants next?
Fix it, and if you don't, you got now you've got problems because you got questions about the people who are in charge, which, again, is a conversation I'd prefer not to have.
By the way, Positive Phil is here on a Friday, a glorious fall Friday, by the way, trying to tell everyone it's going to be okay. And I see your comments, very mean-spirited comments here in the YouTube comment section. Positive Phil is here. He's bursting in like the Kool-Aid man.
Platform is what I'm seeing. You're being accused of being on the wrong platform.
Should Positive Phil go to KFXN Radio, FM 100.3?
Hold on a second. I'm going to listen for that. Positivity. Yes. Go Vikings.
Oh, man. Okay, who wants next?
I'll go next because it's probably also going to open up another can of worms of sparring between the three of us.
Nice.
My hottest take is Sam Darnold deserves 0 blame for the loss against the Rams. And I'm going to explain here. I'm going to be a Darnold defender. And you know what? I'm also going to take a page out of the Kirk stance here. If you were to tell me, going into the game, this would be the result. 18-25, 2 touchdowns, 240, no turnovers, a 76.4 QBR, 128 passer rating. Will you take door number 1 from Sam Darnold, or do you take door number 2?
I'll take door number 1.
Take door number 1,
I
think, every time.
Stats I'll take
are
door
good.
Number 1.
The
stats are
fine. Absolutely.
Darnold did what he was supposed to do. He fed Aaron Jones. He targeted Justin Jefferson. 29 touches between Justin Jefferson and Aaron Jones yesterday. Now he got a little creative too with passes to Trent Sherfield and Josh Oliver, which none of us saw coming. But it's not Sam's fault. The Vikings defense kept the Rams on the field. It's not Sam's fault. The defense drew dumb holding calls and pass interferences. It's not Sam's fault. The Vikings defense drew up just 3 pressures against a quarterback who is 36 years old that you cannot sack and bring down. And it's not Sam's fault. There's 3 blind mice rolling around while Sam Darnold's over here trying to figure out what the hell's going on. So the Vikings defense was undisciplined. You had 3 blind mice screwing them. I don't put a single ounce of blame on the quarterback for this loss. This was a fine performance and an above-average performance from Sam Darnold. I take 0 issue with Darnold. He deserves 0 blame for this loss.
Can I just say real quick? Can I say that there's a huge difference between people mistake criticizing and critiquing someone with blaming someone. Like I agree with 97% with what Declan said, which is, you know what? knowing what we know about Sam Darnold, I will take that. I'll take that performance. I know that there's gonna be a couple things in there. But the couple things in there were like a really bad sack with 4 minutes to go on third down that buried them, or second down, whatever it was. And then I know it was a face mask, but bro, why are you still holding onto the football a half hour after the snap in the end zone?
And how about the sack?
Let's go, dude.
And how about, I believe it was the first half sack he took with Aaron Jones, once again for the second consecutive game, standing in the flat, basically alone. I will say this. I agree completely with Dex when we can include Kevin O'Connell's brain running Sam's body. But when the script's out, he is Ron Burgundy, baby. He is Ron Burgundy.
Go bleep yourself, Minnesota.
Yep. He is fine when the prompter is working. Okay, I'm going to pass the ball to Justin Jefferson. That's a really good play. I like that play. Oh yeah, you know what? We're going to get creative. Trent Sherfield. Oh yeah. Let's do that. But then when it goes off the script, here's what we get.
Patty cake.
Yeah.
Sammy
So
Darnold.
like the box score, what I would love to do is break down, and we actually can break down the scripted plays, but the O'Connell influenced, hey, it's Kevin O'Connell's brain and Darnold's body. I think you got a pretty good thing there. But last night, the problem is when it starts to go sideways, and this is the Darnold experience. When it starts to go off the train tracks, oh my God, it's off the tracks a little bit. He can't get it back on too much. And yeah, the holding the ball, there's just a lot of things. Because yeah, the box score is great, but we're getting back to, and how many times have we had this conversation in this godforsaken state about scripted plays? I feel like the scripted play thing, because you need a quarterback who can go off that script. So I'm not absolving him because
trying to
of
find
the
his
box
by quarter stats, because I think he's probably awesome in the first quarter.
The first
right?
two drives. Well, no, but this team is, I believe this team right now has outscored opponents something like 65-3 or 10 in the first quarter.
Here we go. Okay. Sam Darnold this year by quarter. So where's the passer rating? Oh my gosh. It is crazy. So here are his passer ratings by quarter. I just want to make sure this is
JFF
2024.
boys. JFF, hard at work.
His first quarter passer rating, 143.3. His second quarter passer rating, 88. Okay, halftime. Couple tweaks, right? All right, here we go. Here we go.
Yep.
Can't script them all. Let's script like the first seven, maybe, right?
Let's get the script out.
Third quarter passer rating, 112.3. We're back. Here we go. And then fourth quarter passer rating, 77.1. When it's a lot more off script and it's a lot more improvisational, and right? That's a pretty stark contrast.
Well, like you said, Phil, and I agree completely. Darnold the referees blew it. And I mean, this does not mean that the Vikings would have scored a touchdown, but the referees blew it. But dude, it's the end of the game. You've got to go 90 some odd yards to score a touchdown, and you are holding the football in your own end zone. I think when O'Connell was basically said, we are not going to blame the officiating last night, what he was saying is, my quarterback was holding the football in the GD end zone. Let's not just blame the officials for this.
Yeah, call the penalty that's obviously there. 100% call the penalty.
But
why are you still hanging on to the football?
Right. Okay. And when the head coach is clearly saying that, I think you got a problem. All right. My hottest take is this, and I do not think we will debate this much, but this was the worst performance by the Vikings defense in 24 games with Brian Flores as the defensive coordinator. So you're all saying right now, Sports Dad, what about the last 4 games of last year? So the Vikings did play poorly there. Gave up an average of 30 points per game in that 4-game skid to end 2023. But a couple of things. That was with the personnel not being this good. And I know Blake Cashman is out. I know he's out, and I know it's turned out that he's Urlacher and Butkus combined. but you still got Grenard, you've still got Van Ginkel, you've still got some important parts here. And if I recall correctly, too, that team actually last year had more injury issues by that point in the season than this one. So on Sunday, the Lions, 31 points, all offensively, 391 yards. And again, they're the Lions. They're really good. They figured you out. Okay, you know what? Problematic, but let's fix what's wrong here, right? Because we're about to play a Rams team, and even if Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp come back, this Rams team, offensive line-wise, unlike the Lions, is in no position to stop us. Well, they get 30 points, 386 yards, and while you got to Jared Goff 4 times, you sacked Jared Goff 4 times. Bravo. You got to Matthew Stafford 0 times, and to go back to the stat that Dex pointed out, 34 dropbacks for a quarterback who's 36 years old, and you had 3 pressures. You had the Cooper Kupp touchdown, 7 points, gentlemen, off the board, maybe, if you get the sack there. But instead, you have not 1, but 2 guys whiff. I think the totality of this whole performance on the back end, and yes, you know what? Shaq Griffin is 29. His best years are done. Stephon Gilmore is a savvy vet, but he is 34. His best years are done. And when you don't get the requisite pressure, what you saw last night is going to happen. Like, you do not have a lockdown corner. You have savvy corners that can do their job, but they cannot hold up in perpetuity. I think, to go back now in 24 games, this was the most unprepared, most disappointing, most, oh my God, this is really not good performance under Brian Flores.
Yeah. Couple things. All right.
Mm-hmm.
The Rams did a brilliant job scheming quick passing offense early because they know the state of their offensive line as well. And they get one of the best sort of intermediate, quick, underneath receivers in the NFL back in Cooper Kupp. And I'm just looking at the PFF data too. Matthew Stafford last night was, he was getting the ball out as quick as he wanted to. It was like a half second quicker than Sam Darnold's season average last night.
Yeah.
It was like bang, bang, bang. And also, Matthew Stafford is generally really good at sack avoidance. Like, he knows how to protect himself even with a bad offensive line. Mm-hmm. So my question to Flores is, all right, you're probably not going to be able to do like long developing twists. And so can you get pressure without leaving it wide open over the middle where a great quarterback is just replacing the blitzer with an easy intermediate completion? Like, is there another gear to this thing that you can come up with moving forward? Or is it just all gas, no brakes, and if it doesn't get home, you're going to get shredded by quarterbacks like Jared Goff and Matthew Stafford? That is my question.
Yeah, and I guess what disturbs me a bit is Ben Johnson set up a nice template that the Rams used. So if the Rams had time to use the template, that means you had time to expect them to use it. And to circle back to, is there something else? It appears to me that if you have a team and a quarterback that's good at sack avoidance, a younger, speedier player on the rush might help. And the last time I checked, Dallas Turner played 3 snaps. So again, I think this was, if there's a pie chart of defensive blame for as much as we praised him and he deserved it, Brian Flores deserves a large slice of that pie.
Let's do the Dallas Turner discussion here in a minute. I will highlight that this Rams offense with Puka Nacua, let alone Cooper Kupp. So last year when Puka Nacua was having one of the best rookie seasons ever, that Rams offense was tied for 6th in the NFL in yards per play, above the Chiefs, above obviously the Vikings, above the Eagles, above the Packers. So if you've got McVay, Stafford, and Puka Nacua, and also Cooper Kupp, if you can kind of work around the bad offensive line, it is legitimately a fringe top 5 yardage offense in the NFL going back to last year. And I just think a lot of people, maybe even the Vikings, didn't give that enough credit going into this game. Well, like, it's like a broken Rams team. They're 2-4, and they got a bunch of injuries and stuff. Right, but when those dudes come back, total game changer. What's your plan for it?
Right.
And the Vikings clearly did not have one last night. And neither did all of us watching. We're shocked that the Rams moved the football.
But if the Vikings were assuming at all, and I'm guessing that they weren't, but let's just say for a second that they're assuming Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua weren't going to play, that's a bigger indictment on them. Like, you've got to be prepared for that.
Yeah.
Like we don't, they do. And they weren't. So I thought last night was there have been signs. In fact, I wrote this on my Substack this morning. There were signs in the first 5 games at times that we probably should have heated a little bit, but the Vikings won games and you could sort of explain them away. Well, the pass defense is bad. Well, yeah, but teams are down by a ton and they're trying to come back, and so they're going to pass. Well, the Packers scored 22 fourth quarter points. Well, yeah, but the Vikings gave them a short field on one, and really they still won the game, right? But I thought last night was a culmination of, okay, we have a problem now. How are you going to solve it?
So the Dallas Turner thing here as part of the solution.
The Darrisaw thing's a big thing too. If that's what
gosh, it's the second year in a row that Kirk Herbstreit has had no idea how to pronounce one of the best left tackles.
Larry Darrisaw is one of the most important players out there, Phil.
I know Herbie is busy. He's flying these jet setting college games.
His dog
game
Ben
day.
is sick. I understand.
But Dallas Turner last night played 3 snaps defensively. We are halfway through his rookie season. Jared Verse, who was also a first-round edge rusher that I think went after a couple picks after Dallas Turner, is out there regularly and is now 6th in the NFL in pressures generated, and he's top 3 in pass rush win rate. Rookie Jared Verse. So I'm not expecting Dallas Turner to just jump in and be one of the best rookies. He's a couple years younger than Jared Verse. I'm not even expecting him to supplant Jonathan Grenard, who is awesome, and Andrew Van Ginkel, who's a jack of all trades. Mm-hmm. My bar is Patrick Jones II, because the Vikings run a rotation of edge rushers out there, right? And Patrick Jones II was out there for 43 snaps last night out of 71 possible. So he's out there a lot. Care to guess how many pressures he had in 43 snaps?
0. They had 3.
Nice guess.
0 last night.
They had
Okay.
3 as a team, right?
So yeah, and PFF gave him 6, but either way, it was not very much. The team 6. Right. So I don't know. I'm not saying the kid's a bust, but I have questions about whether it's on the Viking side or the Dallas Turner side. Jared Verse is out there, a stud. He's racking up sacks, but he's top 5, top 6 in pressures. Dallas Turner gets on the field for 3 plays. Patrick Jones II has a pass rush win rate of 5% this year. The league average rate among edge rushers is double or triple that, by the way. He ranks 103rd out of 118 edge guys on the season, yet he plays 35 snaps every week. Can't even breathe on a quarterback. And Dallas Turner can't get on the field for more than 3 or 4 snaps. It just
7 snaps in the past 2 games. You know what, too? I mean, the hallmark of what Flores is doing is creativity, right? Rope it out, mix and match. So, let's just say, for what we want from Patrick Jones, he's doing it. You don't understand. Okay, you're still saying there's no way to play your first-round picks? Like that's what gets me. And does that mean he is not smart enough to absorb what you wanted? Which, by the way, you should have been able to deduct from the pre-draft stuff. Or does that mean that he, what? Here's what I would like to know, instead of getting, the lip service that we're going to get, which is Dallas Turner will be fine. He's going to be great.
Lewis Cine will be fine.
Yeah, exactly. I'd like to know what the problem is here. What are you telling me he can't do? Why can't he play?
Windy fingers. Windy fingers.
But I mean, Brian Flores is looking to get guys, and I know that there is a high intelligence, but he is looking to play guys. He doesn't.
He's literally playing 17 guys in a rotation on defense.
So are you telling me that this guy, he's just not as good as you thought? Are you telling me he's not as smart as you hoped? Are you telling me that, this is because unfortunately, the word bust, it's just a blanket term, right? He's a bust. But it has a lot of different categories, in my opinion. And what are we saying he can't do here? So yeah, and so I guess in my opinion, forgetting Patrick Jones for a second, you still can't find a way to incorporate him, especially in a game in which you're getting no pressure.
And Jihad Ward is the other. He's kind of the other. Technically, he's an edge, but they use him more as an interior.
Yes.
He essentially is there to set up Grenard and Van Ginkel coming around on stunts and twists. But yeah, I mean, Patrick Jones, like 95% of his snaps are aligned outside as an edge. He's a backup edge rusher. And I don't know if you can't.
Yeah, you're right.
It's just kind of weird. Doesn't make a lot of sense. I think Chef Dex is ready to unleash this. But first, tell the audience what's happening on Underdog going into another fun football weekend here, Dex.
Yeah, there's plenty of great tokens that give you a little extra boost, 10%, 30%, even for NBA, NHL. World Series starts tonight, too, so you can do cross-sport entries. So maybe you take an Ohtani home run. Maybe you parlay that or pick that with an Anthony Edwards performance and then throw in, I don't know, Aaron Rodgers interceptions or something. There's no Aaron Rodgers like pouty thing I can throw in an Underdog.
How many eye rolls?
Yeah. 2.5 eye rolls from Aaron Rodgers. Let's ride higher on that at Underdog. New users still get a 50% deposit match up to $1,000. So promo code SCORE when you sign up at Underdog. Appreciate everyone that has played along. Keep sending me those great pick'ems that you are winning on. That's Underdog, promo code SCORE for a 50% deposit match.
Do the purple ever make you want to punch a hole through your drywall? If they do, KS Drywall is here. Full drywall, plaster repair, popcorn ceiling texture removal, and interior painting services as well. So whatever job you're looking for, whether it's a new construction or small emergency repairs, KS Drywall is here servicing the Twin Cities Metro and Western Wisconsin. Older homes often have that popcorn ceiling texture. So if you plan to sell someday, maybe you want to have that removed to just make the home look and feel a little bit newer. Upgrade that thing, maybe get a little extra money on your sale.
Look at
this is Judd's new office right there.
Yeah.
I wish that was my bedroom. That's gorgeous.
Kind of a cool little chandelier. Head over to ksdrywall.com to schedule a free estimate. ksdrywall.com.
The Rock knows how you feel about pie.
All right, pie chart of blame here. Chef Dex has it for us. How many slices are we talking about?
We are looking at 6 slices of pie. My sous chef is just exhausted
Oh my God!
from
Vince over there.
wait, not
It's like the bear. It's like the bear. A lot
I'm
of
gonna check his
drama
pulse.
last night.
Check his
Yeah.
pulse. I'm not sure.
Vinny, who's good boy? Who's the best boy?
yeah, no.
Oh, he's got the long neck. I love
Yeah,
the long
he does
necks.
he does
where
have
their
the
necks are like here and their
Yes.
body's here.
Yes. So 6 slices of pie. So we'll start from the bottom, work our way up. Are you guys getting the same Darrisaw things in the YouTube comments here before I get closer? I was trying to confirm that as well. I don't see anything. I know some people are saying it's an MCL, but I'm not seeing anything from anyone else.
I haven't seen anything come across the official Vikings and NFL Twitter feed here, but we will keep you posted if something.
If that
official
happens in
comes
the middle of this pie chart, just interrupt me and
Okay.
we'll take a pause there. From the bottom, working our way up, 6 slices of pie. We'll start with the first slice, 5%. 5% to Vikings wide receiver Jalen Nailor. That was a turning point in the game, and I didn't blame Sam for not just tucking and running it. Nailor catches that ball. That's possibly 6 points, man. He had a wide open there to at least maybe make it first and goal at the very least. Probably gets in the end zone. That's a turning point in the game, dude. So Jalen Nailor, just catch the ball, dude. I actually think Sam looking off and then getting the defender to get off Nailor, like he hauls in that catch. It's a completely different outcome. So that one play alone stood out to me. So 5% to Jalen Nailor.
That was brutal, man. Yeah, that's one of those super high leverage plays that a lot of the stuff we're complaining about here today might go by the wayside if he catches that and houses it. And now maybe the Vikings then get a stop or whatever it is. Yeah, it was brutal.
Second slice of pie, and people might think this is still too low, but I'm not a big blame everything on Zebra's guy, but 10% to the referees.
Wow.
10%. 10%. I think the other things outweigh what the referees did on the field yesterday, even with the egregious face mask. At the same time, the refs did play a big factor in this game. I didn't love that. A lot of flags, too many flags. They get a slice of pie in this, but it's a smallish slice. It's 10%. 10% to the referees.
The face mask, and then there was in the first half, there was a couple warranted third down penalties on the Vikings defensively, but there was one in particular, a holding on Byron Murphy that just. So there was definitely 2 or 3 game-changing, high-leverage, what are we calling here or not calling things. So I'm okay with the refs make. I might go a little lower than 10 because Sam, what?
Yeah.
Just stop playing patty cake, but okay.
Third slice of pie.
Rock knows how you feel about pie.
The Christian Darrisaw injury at 15%. So it happened obviously right before the end of the first half. I'm not going to be revisionist history of just take the knee and go. Like I don't know, man. You're only saying that because of what happened. Like no one said that going in, saying before. If you were saying that before the play, bravo. You're right. And I don't know, that's a weird thing to predict that you would think that would happen. But having David Quessenberry in there for the second half definitely plays a factor when you don't have one of the best left tackles in the game. So the Christian Darrisaw injury, the Quessenberry having to replace him, that does get a slice of pie here. 15% in my pie chart of blame.
As we discussed on Ventline too, that take a knee philosophy was far dicier than I think people got.
Yeah, because you're at the
from where you are. Like, yeah, so it's a run play. You do that, right? You have run plays. He got hurt. It sucks. But I thought O'Connell didn't have a great night necessarily, but I'm not going to fault him for trying to have Aaron Jones get some yards.
Also, if he sits
where do we stop then? Well, you really shouldn't have run that play.
If Kevin O'Connell bursts into your living room and says, "Hey, I know it's crazy. I'm here right now, but I've paused the game, and I just want to preemptively explain to you."
Yeah.
So we're at the 2.5-yard line, and it looks bleak, but there's 30 seconds left, and we have 3 timeouts. So we're gonna run the ball and see if we can pick up 8 or 10 yards. And if we do, we're gonna call a timeout, and we're gonna try and get to midfield so Big Leg Bill can kick a field goal. Yay or nay? And I'm sure a certain percentage of conservative fans would have said why don't you just take a knee? But taking a knee, by the way, the Rams had a timeout left.
Yeah.
So you take a knee, now you're at the 1, and they call timeout to say, if you want to back yourself up, we'll see. We'll make you hand it off because now you're not going to take a knee again from the 1. You got to hand it off at some point.
Correct.
So let's see if we can punch it out.
Exactly.
So, anywho, okay.
All right, the next 2 slices of pie, I guess, could be looped together, but I do have them separated for the sake of the pie. 20% to Kevin O'Connell for what we just kind of hinted at a little bit there. I thought it's a short week. It's hard. You're going against one of the best coaches, if not the best coach in the NFL, and Sean McVay. A very creative mind. You were underneath him. You kind of know some of the tendencies, but I just did not think the Vikings were well prepared for this game. And yes, Brian Flores, which by the way, we'll get to the slice of pie to the Vikings defense momentarily. Nice. KOC is the head coach. And, even though Jalen Nailor drops that ball, do you go for it? Do you try, instead of kicking a field goal, do you keep the offense on the field to make things a little bit more interesting? The other slice of pie here that'll kind of dovetail from Kevin O'Connell to this one, 20% also to the pre-snap penalties on offense. You guys have been working on this all season long. So one of 2 things, either the players themselves, guys, get set. How many times have you ran these drills, ran these plays over and over and over again, and you can't get set? Second in the NFL in pre-snap penalties, I believe, going into that game. And then also, all right, let's also then have some self-reflection time from Kevin O'Connell. Am I making things too complicated for these guys to understand? I don't want to have to believe that, but I think both those slices of pie from the pre-snap penalties do dovetail from Kevin O'Connell, with the players also screwing it up themselves. So each of them, pre-snap penalties get 20%, and Kevin O'Connell gets 20%.
And don't forget, too, I believe it was the third quarter, he again used a timeout, which is a second half timeout.
Yeah.
Because, and he was granted the timeout because, again, the play clock was at 0. I don't know exactly when he called the timeout, but the play clock, I went back and watched this, was at 0 when they finally gave him his timeout. But the point is, that's a penalty too. I mean, that's basically a penalty. You have now burned a timeout because you thought it was more important to burn a timeout than to lose 5 yards. But why are we still here? I think I asked O'Connell about this 3 weeks ago now. It's seems like there's a problem with the Green Bay game. It's what. And at that point in time, it's like, well, Darnold's still new and they're still getting in a flow. Okay, we're 8 weeks in. You're not getting in a flow. That has to be cleaned up by now.
Couple things on this, because I feel this might be worth diving deep, maybe like state of the offense or something next week. But my theory, and this is not an excuse, I'm looking for reasons why are there so many pre-snap penalties. The Vikings are second in the NFL in pre-snap penalties this season. The Cleveland Browns, the chaotic, disorganized Cleveland Browns, are the only team with more pre-snap penalties. Is it possible that in order to get Sam Darnold to a point where he can throw for 250 yards and a couple touchdowns and look like a real NFL quarterback for the first time in his career, that takes so much energy from KOC every week, hands-on and scheming, that some of the other details have gone by the wayside? That there's the lack of attention on the things that are causing pre-snap penalties. That maybe, like, even on defense, I know that Brian Flores is going to run the defense, but this is KOC popping his head into the room and offer. Right. I don't know how, but it almost feels like his attention is slipping from some other key areas. One last thought on this.
Yeah.
I put it on coaching. Pre-snap penalties are on coach, offensive coach, and quarterback, and maybe center. But quarterback and coach, communication, efficiency, get the play out, organize your guys. It's a game of telephone. So the Vikings are the second most pre-snap penalized team in the NFL, 24 pre-snap penalties. Who do you think has the fewest pre-snap penalties in the NFL with 7 this year?
The
Coach,
Chiefs.
Quarterback,
And
Chiefs.
Mahomes.
Candy, They have 7
Yeah,
on the
because
season.
he's not, yeah.
Because they're not dinking around, wondering what's happening. What are we doing? What's this? This is what we're doing.
The delay of game stuff, I could see that O'Connell is, trying to talk to Darnold until there's 15 seconds left, much like McVay did with Goff back in the day. But the other ones are just lack of discipline, like false starts. And here's the one that gets me: this new plethora of wide receivers not being on the line or being lined up. I mean, Jordan Addison had crossed over into Lions territory. That's inexcusable. Like, there's nothing about that.
If that happens on a Patrick Mahomes team, which, by the way, it doesn't
Well, it sort
really.
of did with Kadarius Toney, and I don't think he got called for it, right?
Was
like
it the...
He was in the backfield. Last season.
It was regular season. I think.
So maybe that's a bad example. But, like, in general, they have 7 pre-snap penalties. But you know what? If something like that happens, guess who's going over to Kadarius Toney or whoever it is, or holding him accountable? Coach, quarterback. This is not how we operate. And I don't know that Darnold has that type of personality, which is part of the reason why he's on his 4th team and hasn't figured it out yet. So, and that brings us to the final slice of pie.
The Rock knows how you feel about pie.
30% to the Vikings defense. I agree with Judd. I think that was probably the worst, and for my own sanity, like one of the most frustrated I've ever been watching a Vikings game in the Kevin O'Connell era. And look, last year with Nick Mullins and Josh Dobbs, when that, when all that hit the fan, I wasn't expecting like those teams to be great. Like the Vikings got off to a 5-0 start, and they lost a game against probably the best team in the NFC in the Lions. But to have those type of penalties, 3rd downs, dude, get off the field. You have stopped them successfully, and you have done the boneheaded thing of giving them new life. I mean, it might happen once. For it to happen 3 times in like the first half alone, just unacceptable stuff, dude. So the pass rush not being able to get home. You can't find a role for Dallas Turner. Even if you don't have the interior defensive lineman that you have on the roster, you can't figure out any type of way to still get pressure in a unique way. You can't blitz someone off on a cornerback blitz or send Harry the hitman. Like, it was a puzzling performance to me from Brian Flores. And a heavyweight fight between Sean McVay and Brian Flores, I thought would be a lot closer. And it was completely dominated by McVay. Completely. So 30% to the Vikings defense. So in my pie chart of blame, 6 slices of pie, 30% to the defense, 20% to the pre-snap penalties, 20% to KOC, 15% to Christian Darrisaw's injury, 10% to the refs, and 5% to Jalen Naylor.
The Rock knows how you feel about pie.
Oof. Okay, we'll give our silver linings here, as we do when they lose, to send you out on a high note. But speaking of high notes, KW Outdoor Solutions is here to help you with any maybe high areas that give you anxiety when it comes to holiday lights. if your heart starts to race a little bit with, oh man, just everything that goes into holiday lights, but maybe your family wants to put something up, KW Outdoor Solutions is your one-stop shop for outdoor holiday lighting. They offer design, installation, maintenance, takedown, and storage. They'll do roof lines, trees, shrubs. They'll do everything from a single colored look or a full Clark Griswold operation. Find out more at kwoutdoorsolutions.com. Owned and operated and serving the local Twin Cities metro area. Also, Federated Insurance, rooted in Minnesota, in Owatonna, but serving businesses across the entire country. It's like having a great offensive line, much like LA had last night, apparently, protecting your business. They stay focused on safety and preventing claims so you can stay focused on growing your business. Federatedinsurance.com to find out more about their history and the industries that they specialize in. At Federated Mutual Insurance Company, it's our business to protect yours. All right, silver linings. Judd, why don't you start us off?
Okay, I'm going to start you off with one that did not take place on the field, but rather on the sideline. Well, heck, in the airplane going from Minneapolis to Los Angeles. And that would be the first road trip taken by 2025 starting quarterback J.J. McCarthy. I believe it was Albert Breer on Prime reported before the game that McCarthy was there. He returned. He actually attended his first game, I think, on the sideline on Sunday against the Lions. This was his first trip. Breer reported that he was on the headset. He continues to now quietly learn behind the scenes. That is a silver lining because, ladies and gentlemen, that is your quarterback at the start of training camp next year. And anything to do with McCarthy for now, to me, is of great interest, big or small. And this was a step now that he's off his scooter and able to actually be on the sideline. Yeah. And they're not concerned about him being knocked over on his scooter.
Yeah, I mean, it's just becoming, Darnold, the numbers continue to look great, and it's the best season he's ever had, and he's taking advantage of this infrastructure. But it also just feels like every game that goes by, you're not paying $30 to $40 million in free agency for that. It's not even really a discussion.
Well, and you're also seeing, the more that we watch this potentially, you're also seeing areas that need to be addressed financially.
Yep. And if you can, I mean, the best case scenario is McCarthy steps in and he's better quickly, maybe not like week one, but toward the end of maybe 2025, and you use the savings, the dead cap money that comes off the books. The Vikings have like $70 million in cap space. It's like top 6 cap space. So there's that continues to be a silver lining long term for a window opening and an era beginning, as opposed to like this being some random pop-up year where
absolutely,
if you don't take advantage, then there's no hope for 2025.
Yep.
All right, Dex, what's your silver lining?
My silver lining, I'll borrow something that I said in my hot take, but my silver lining is you fed the two most important people on offense yesterday. So Aaron Jones had 18 carries. He had the huge grab, but also is still just a ridiculous threat in the passing game. And you targeted Justin Jefferson 9 times. Like, more times than not, when you have those two dudes touching the ball 29 times in the game, and only, I would like to see Jordan Addison get a couple more targets. Like, where is he? Like, I don't understand where Jordan Addison is. But at the end of the day, I want the offense to funnel to those two guys. Those guys should be getting the bulk of the touches. So offensive game plan wise, I thought getting Jefferson the ball earlier, feeding Aaron Jones against a depleted and bad Rams run defense was the right idea. That is the recipe. Feed those two, keep feeding them. That's going to lead to wins more times than not.
I mean, I feel like I gave my silver lining for 12 minutes off the top of the show here. I mean, everyone kind of knows I don't know. Felt like maybe it was a half hour. Positive Phil came walking in the room like, hey, everyone, listen, let's bleep you. Get the hell out of here. Screw you.
There is one ball, and there are certainly guys, to Declan's point, who deserve it. I feel like the topic, though, of Addison and touches as far as in-game goes is worth a discussion at some point.
Well, keep in mind there's not as many touches to go around as there were the last couple of years because they are not throwing the ball as many times per game as they were in the last couple of years.
Well, and when Hawkinson comes back, theoretically, it should be even less potentially. I just think it's interesting.
Yeah, it's just like so. Addison, what is he? Is this? I don't know if this is updated, but yeah, he only has like 14 or 15 catches on a season.
And he had the explosive against the Lions, but that was his one big play. I just wonder what the intention is there long term. He has had enough problems where you could make a case where I don't know, you eventually pick up his contract, or I don't know that you're wedded to giving him, I should say, a new contract eventually.
I think even if he plays really well, the fact that Jefferson's going to still be in his prime there's no way you're paying 2 receivers near the top of the market.
Yep,
so your best hope is that he continues to be like a good, solid secondary option, and maybe picks up from here. He
might be like, see you later then, and try.
And then you get a first round, second round, probably not first round pick, but like you get some draft pick compensation back in a year or two when you trade him.
I trade him.
That's what I'm saying. It might be worth a show at some point.
It will definitely be worth a show.
Because this show, we uncover everything. Look under every rock.
Yes. Even if looking under those rocks triggers some people. Like the Matthew Stafford episode that a lot of you mocked the notion that Matthew Stafford, Sam Darnold's better. I don't know. You watched that game last night? I don't know about that. Guy can sling it. So, all right, Vikings still 5-2, still the fifth best point differential in the league. Positive Phil is here for you. If you want to tell him to bleep off, you can. He's the sports dad. He's been through many NFL seasons. Declan might have to grow another mustache here at some point.
It's happening.
Okay, to spark this team.
Yep.
You guys will be discussing with Thor. It'll be a Thursday on a Saturday, and then Feedback Friday on a Sunday. So we've got you covered this weekend here. The therapy continues. Daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.